Welcome back to the Now Morning Show. Joining us in studio is no stranger, and as always, it's time for some enlightening conversation with Richard Solomon, Managing Director of Development Consulting Center Limited. And this morning, we're focusing on meritocracy and national success. Good morning, Richard, and welcome back.
Very good morning to you. Thank you. How are you this morning?
I am well, thank you. How are you doing?
Good. Doing well.
Wonderful. I'm looking
Nice.
forward to this conversation, I have
So
to
am I.
say. Meritocracy, for some they say it escapes us. For some they say that they do believe that, of course, this is something that is tried and true. Before we get into that conversation, let's talk about exactly what meritocracy is.
Right. So it's achieving or getting into positions based on your actual objective abilities. So you merit that role, that position. Some would say it's a system of government, just like we have democracy, meritocracy. So if we move it to the government status, we would say those elected, selected are best suited to whatever those roles are. That's the idea.
That's the idea. Okay, now in light of that, I mean, immediately as soon as you say that, one of the first things that comes to mind, we're going to come back to Trinidad and Tobago, and I'm sure this happens throughout the world as well, where you see people say, well, it's a narrative of, it's not what you know, it's who you know.
Yeah.
Is that a symptom of a broken meritocracy?
I can't say that categorically because if I were forming a company today, for example, and I needed 3 other people or 2 other people to form it with me, naturally I would reach out to those that I know. Hopefully they would have some merit to be able to add value to that. So that networks, which is really what we're talking about, the people that we are connected to that we know, that influences obviously where you end up. So it is not a absolute statement that, okay, meritocracy is broken, because there's value in that. The critical thing is, of the people that we can choose from, do they merit the role or the position? That's the secondary question. If I don't know you exist, I can't buy your product, I can't hire you.
Yeah.
So you have to throw your hat into the ring or into the pot. But now that you're in the pot, do you merit the role?
Something that is so important. But what about that space of, okay, merit, yes, but growth potential? You know me, you don't know me as well as somebody else.
Right.
I don't look that great on paper, let's be real about it, but I have the potential for growth. How do we strike that balance? How do we do that and keep that meritocracy?
So it depends on how we define meritocracy for that role.
Okay.
So there's some spaces where we don't need you to be in training in that position. If you are a pilot flying an aircraft, we don't need you to now be in training. Now, someone would argue the co-pilot flies the plane generally, and that's true, but there is a captain who has the requisite skills and knowledge and competencies and oversees the work of the co-pilot. So not all spaces are training spaces. Some roles, given the risk, given the importance of what you are responsible for, we require you to have the capability or work under the tutelage. You're talking about, do I have the potential? But how do we measure that?
Right.
Because meritocracy is not a lifelong thing. I have gotten here, now that's it. Of course, we need to grow. But do I have the potential for growth? Not everyone has the potential for growth into everything.
Yeah. It's something that is so important. It's interesting, we don't necessarily think about variables when it comes to meritocracy. So now let's shift that to organizations.
Right.
And I guess, well, we'll get into the conversation as well on a national level, but particularly with organizations, how now can we ensure that organizations actually select the best suited people for the role?
Well, start with getting very clear on what you need.
Okay.
There's some societies that are still stuck on, well, we need people with a degree in this or a degree in that. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. About 20% of our labor force has a tertiary level qualification. So it's a small percent, I mean 1/5. Do we actually need a degree? The bet that we make is that degree will mean that that person possesses some base abilities. I have found that the link or the alignment between what is required and what people possess is not always very clear, and it's not always well documented. We have to get very clear on, what do I need you to be able to do, to know, to behave? So skills, knowledge, abilities. What do I need you to be able to do? Attitude. How do I need you to comport yourself? because spaces are not equal, but humans are not equal either. So that's the very first thing. We have to get very clear on what do we require, and then how do we objectively, as best as we can, and I have to say as best as we can because all measurements are flawed and humans are flawed. So we won't be able to exactly, but how can we, as best as we can, objectively measure the people who are putting themselves forward, their potential, their ability, vis-a-vis what we require for these rules.
In your perspective, would it be fair to say the education system lays that foundation for meritocracy?
It should.
It should.
It should. I think we fail, and I don't know if you are now bringing this conversation to a national level, but I think, to me, the question becomes, are we preparing people with the base components to be able to do whatever is needed in this society? I'll give you an example. So we have spent billions of dollars. By now, it's probably $100 billion on GATE. By now. And lots of people have qualifications. Good on them. Lots of people have studied business administration, but have no businesses to administrate. What do we really need them to do? Now, it's not a bad thing that they have studied business administration, but then we have this mismatch. So can people actually go out into the world and practice? Many people report being underemployed. They simply do not have jobs to mop up what is required of them, or what they would like to do, given what they have studied or the investment that they have made. So there's that mismatch, I think, in the society. And so to answer the question, I don't believe that the education system is well aligned with what is required. And I can't help myself but saying, when you think about where the world is going, in terms of machine learning, artificial intelligence, and machines doing a lot of the things that we think are special now, machines are doing it in a tenth, 100th of the time. Are we preparing children that are in schools today for that future? I'm not sure how well we are doing.
Do you have any recommendations from what you've experienced thus far when it comes to that, of what we can do as a nation, as a global society, to start to align?
Right. So in terms of preparation of those coming up, and there's a statistic that says about 65% of children in schools today will have, in primary schools, will have jobs that don't yet exist. We don't know what those are. So I think one of the biggest preparatory steps is helping people learn how to learn.
Yeah.
Because there's this thing about having to relearn and pivot. We see what's happening in the tech industry today. Lots of coders are not required. A lot of engineers are not required. Why? Because these large language models can just do it like that. Yep. So helping people to learn how to learn. Then one of the other skills, and the data is telling us now that human skills are really becoming more important than they used to be. So in the age of the machines, human skills are becoming more important. So are we doing enough, I'm posing a question, to prepare those that are in schools, institutions of learning, for a world where machines will do a lot of the tasks and human skills are in greater requirement, where there is going to be a requirement to learn, unlearn, do something differently, much faster than we have done it. I don't think we're doing enough of that. I think we need to do more. I think we spend a lot of time preparing people to do tasks that they'll never touch. You know, teach our students how to think, how to analyze, how to disagree based on logic and analysis. I think those skills are really going to help. How to work together. How many times and people out in the world will agree with me, you work on a project in school and there are 10 people or 5 people in the group and one person is pulling all the weight. Yeah. You know, those kinds of skills, I don't think we're doing enough of that piece of work. Yeah.
So then moving forward from that, what recommendations would you have skill-wise? Are we looking at a national level when it comes to the education system? Do we start with companies? Where do we start?
Well, I always go to a national level, and it's probably because I have this passion for zooming out. I think in a society like Trinidad and Tobago, the government plays a very important role in making sure that the base elements are there. So this system that is putting all levels of stress, amazing levels of stress on 10 and 11-year-olds to prepare for this one day of examinations. And I don't know, the statistics will probably bear me out that, you know, many of them end up with stress-related diseases, illnesses as a result. I don't know that it's doing the work that needs to be done. I think we need to revamp that system. The other thing that we need to do is we need to stop saying to people by our behavior that you need a degree for everything. You don't. You absolutely do not. I don't think that is required. The other thing what we need to do from a national perspective is we need to put people where they belong. There are lots of square pegs and round holes. And when you have a lot of square pegs and round holes, you also need very large hammers to force them in.
Yeah.
And this is at all levels of the society. I have looked at individuals, being touted as, oh, this person will be great for that. And I have said very publicly, no, there's some people, no, this person will never have the capability to do that thing that you all are saying. They may be great at other things, but we need to get real about these things. And it's okay. There's nothing wrong with someone saying, I want to be a farmer. What is wrong with that? We need people to do more agriculture. Stop making, I believe, cognitive work the work.
Of course.
There are other things that should be as important and sometimes more important.
Yeah, 100% agreed with you there as well. And it's something that we see many countries that do focus on that. We see their economies grow.
Right.
So it's something we do need to, I guess, also shift our mindset towards. Now, I want to go back to something that you would have mentioned, the fact that we see our education system, and let's just say the system in general, we see some unfairness specifically. And the fact that we're preparing people for roles that may be saturated, may no longer exist.
Yes.
And let's just say that shift does not happen. And we continue to see people being prepared and these new jobs being generated. It's very much a chicken and egg, whereby we'll then possibly see the narrative of networking, but more negative light, whereby we're friends, we're loyal, so I'm going to provide you with this and give you the opportunity to learn. How do we balance that out, or at least as individuals do our best to ensure that we can position ourselves?
In what you said, I heard, do we value loyalty greater than we value meritocracy? And I've actually heard very, very prominent members of our society make that statement. We value loyalty more than we value meritocracy, skill, ability. The question I would ask or pose in response is, what are we trying to create here? Are we trying to create a club of friends and family, and only a select few are now have access to the best opportunities? Or are we trying to build a nation where efficiency, effectiveness are the hallmarks of our experience? And if the latter is true, then I get it. The reach that we have to a few people can influence our thinking, but it should not influence so far that we are not able to now look and say, yeah, you're my friend, but you don't possess the skills for this, or this is not your forte, so we need to find someone else. You may be good here as an advisor for a particular area, but we have to be willing to look at it through those lenses, because Trinidad and Tobago suffers as a result. We suffer as a result. We burn money. We burn money as a nation because we keep sticking people in positions because they are popular, because they are part of the club. We suffer as a nation, and we keep spending money to make up for the inefficiency and ineffectiveness that is partially created by that. That will run out. There's only so many unbalanced budgets we can withstand, as a nation. Now, this happens in the private sector as well. I was working with a group of leaders yesterday, and they were lamenting in the private sector that they've seen this in their organization. The difference with the private sector is they live and die by their balance sheet and their income statement. Yeah. So if they don't make money, then down the drain. But apparently, in the public space, we have all the money, so we could keep doing that. This will run out, and we have to address it. And for me, it doesn't help when we hear very senior members of our society behave as if, well, it's okay that I don't know, and it's okay that I'm not competent, and it's okay that I don't have any skills in this area. Everyone has to try. We all have to try, but some spaces, because of the risk, that's not a good place for you.
Some really critical words there, and this is why you will continue to come back and share with us this morning, but unfortunately we ran out of time. Thank you for joining us, Richard.
Very welcome.
Richard Solomon, always a pleasure to have him in studio with us this morning on the Now Morning Show. Stay tuned, there's more coming up after this break.